Hi, everyone. I've got Anna with me here today, and we're glad to be back. We took a little break. It helped us to enjoy the summer season and practice some of what we preach, be able to have some extra time with our families and keep our workflow steady.
Yes.
And speaking of that, today's episode is actually about the summertime. One of the things we notice every single summertime in our work as therapists with children and families is how that transition from school to summer break time is rough and bumpy.
It can be really rough and bumpy, a transition, even though it's an expected one and it's one that everyone knows is coming. It can still feel like a really disruptive shift for kids and families.
Yeah. And when this happens and when we pick up on it, we typically notice it as therapists because one, families, parents disclose this, that it's just been really hard. And not necessarily that they're naming the transition as hard. They're typically naming all of the misbehavior that's happening, all the acting out that their kids are doing, or also how tense they as the parents feel. And I want to normalize this. I'm a mother myself. Anna, you are too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have been on both sides of this, right? As people that get to support families and also as mothers ourselves going through these transitions. And this is very, very normal. I spend so much time in the podcast talking about being able to have that consistent, regular routine. And so I want to normalize that sometimes life moves so fast that we forget about the transitions that we are actually making throughout the day, especially us adults. I think kids might actually be more cognizant of this because for a child, life moves slower. Their sense of time is a lot more mindful and slower than it is for us adults who have a whole lot on our to-do list every day. And so I want to normalize that when we parents work all year long, right, to get our children into the school flow. And then all of a sudden we are really excited for that summertime flow of like, oh, I don't have to be up so early and get them out of the house and that, morning rush out of the house. And so we look forward to the parts we hope are going to feel more relaxed, only to then remember, oh, wait, I still have to work during the summer season, during the summertime when my kids aren't in school. What am I going to do? And so usually 3 to 6 months before school is over, parents are, bustling around trying to get their kids signed up for the summer camps.
Yeah, the summer camp activities, which then the routines sort of mimic the school routine, but still feel really different for everybody involved.
Yes.
You're still getting up early, you're still maybe going to a drop-off and things of that nature, but it's to a whole new environment with a whole new group of people. From the child's perspective, even though camp can be really fun and there can be a lot of really exciting and enjoyable things happening throughout the day, it is still so new all the time. Some kids get to attend some of the same camps each year, so they might be familiar with counselors. They might have a friend that's going, but it's still going to be a big shift for them as well, even though there are some similarities or some things that mimic that school time routine. So that's just good to keep in mind because, like you were saying, that kids are living so much in the present. They're living really mindfully. And so these things that feel like subtle changes or small changes to adults feel very big and intense for any kid. They're living in the present and in the now. Adults are usually living
in the past or future.
Right. In their to-do list in their head. And so all kids have is the present moment really to keep them grounded. And so when that present moment looks so different than it did just a couple of weeks ago, it can be really tough.
Yeah. For the families that I've supported for many years through this transition, we are now ahead of the game, right? So in the best of circumstances, 3 to 6 months beforehand, when you're picking these summer camps, you're doing it so mindfully. You're doing it through the trial and error of the year before. Okay, my kid did not enjoy that one camp last year, so this year we're going to do it this way. This year I'm going to ask a little bit more input from my child and get their feedback and help them have some power and say. And so if you've been lucky enough to do things that consciously and that mindfully, then you're setting yourself up for what we would call a smoother transition. And your child is also being set up with the ability to go through this more gently, with more power and say. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you go to sign up and the camp's already full, right? And so you're scrambling, and sometimes you're even having to piece 2 different distinct summer camps in one day together. Meaning, okay, well, this one has a half a day slot open. This other one has the afternoon slot open. And so you're piecing it, right? And so think about how much transition that is for a child. And even for those children that have said, oh, yes, I want to do this one camp that was so fun last year, then they may get there this time around and the staff is different. And the counselor that they really connected with last year was, a college student or somebody just doing temp work. And then this year, all of a sudden, the staff is different and maybe they're not as warm and nurturing or hands-on. Maybe that staff person's having a bad day. Maybe they've signed up to do summer camp, but they're not really a kid person.
There could be so many factors throughout the day that are completely out of our kids' control. And so I think something that we try to bear in mind is that when it is possible to give them a little bit of say, a little bit of control in what goes on in their day-to-day lives, that does give them a sense of not just like power in the situation, but sort of power with themselves. I chose this. I'm
more
excited
investment.
for this. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I'm invested in this being fun for me.
Absolutely. And so even when they do face these challenges, they might be that much more able to move through it if, like you said, you kind of have the experience of getting to set things up for success. But when that doesn't happen, what can we do?
Yes.
How can we meet the challenge of transition, whether we've kind of set ourselves up for that smooth transition or we're experiencing transitions in more of a chaotic way? What can we do?
Yes, I think that is the golden question. That's our linchpin issue in this regard. And I want to acknowledge that we're speaking to the parents, right, that don't have the ability to stay home with their kids during the summertime. We're speaking to the parents that had their kids in some sort of schooling situation and now things are different. There is some kids that are homeschooled, and so the summertime may not feel very different than the way it feels all year long. And so we hope that if that's your situation, maybe something in this conversation still is helpful to you. And then for those parents that are asking this question, like, what do I do? What have I gotten myself into? Like, I've got no choice now. My kid's got to go to camp. I've got to work because if I don't work, I can't pay the bills.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So there's, I think there is, depending on everybody's circumstances, everyone's got different things going on. Like you said, some kids are at home, some kids are at camp throughout the day. Sometimes it's a mix of all of these things. So almost lots of families take summer vacations. And so there'll be some nuggets that will be relevant to those times when everybody's home together, which doesn't happen all that often, right? That's the beauty and joy of vacation, but that's also, that can also be part of that transitional struggle as well of getting used to, wow, we're all home together, which doesn't happen very often. Parents are seeing this kind of like you were saying earlier as this opportunity for, let's rest, let's enjoy sleeping in. But if many of us know what that's like when we think we're going to get to sleep in and our kiddos are still on the schedule of, no, it's time to wake up at like 6 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
So we want to speak to those folks that are kind of planning ahead or looking to enjoy some vacations, later on in the summer if you haven't already.
Right. So what we're really trying to say here is that you may be struggling with this summer season for a lot of different reasons. You as an adult or your child may be struggling for several reasons. And that's, again, because we have lost this structure that the school year provides for families and for yourself, and the respite that also can be provided when kids are off in school. Now, remember, there's issues that happen all year long, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to do a future episode that's focused on how do we support kids getting back into school.
Right.
So today we're talking about how do we support when things are going wrong? What do I do? And so this may seem like we're going to give you this really complicated answer, and we're going to give you a really complicated formula to institute at home, and it really isn't complicated. Our advice for when you are up in arms and just struggling and you're noticing that your child is struggling is slow down.
Right.
Slow down and take notice.
Yeah.
Take a deeper notice as to what is happening here. Take the time to have the conversations, to check in with them. Put your phone down, put your laptop away, decline the work call that you get, slow down and have these conversations with your kids. Check in and ask, how's it going? It seems like you're not okay. I've been noticing now that for like 3 days straight, you're just having a really rough time. And do so without judgment. So this is when we invite curiosity to the conversation. Do this from a curious, kind, and committed perspective with your children.
Absolutely. Be willing to hear their struggles as legitimate struggles. Be willing to kind of put yourself almost in the mindset of what their experiences are as these tiny present people, these people who are living moment to moment. Something that might feel small or insignificant to an adult, like, oh, my favorite camp counselor isn't at camp anymore, and I'm so disappointed about not being able to see them, and camp doesn't feel the same anymore. The response can't be, well, I'm sure there are other great counselors there, right? Which, of course, you want to do that. Of course, we want to try to find the bright and shiny spot for our child. Of course, we want to make their pain go away. The tendency to want to do that is not bad or wrong on a parent's part, but the way to move through this interaction is not to problem solve it, but rather to really slow it down and hear them. Yes, and validate their experience.
Yeah. So it's human nature as humans, whether we're a little human or a big human, we tend to shy away from discomfort, right? Like when we feel those uncomfortable feelings, we typically develop strategies, defense strategies to avoid it or explode with it, right? Or deny it. And so when a child finally lets a parent into the things that are bothering them or the things that are difficult, and when your intuitive strategy is to say, oh, well, but I'm sure you're going to meet other new teachers or camp counselors, or, well, what about the friend that you are doing this camp with? And when we go to the but, and when we go to the look at the bright side, sometimes we think that we're teaching our children to be strong and resilient, right? But what we're really doing is we're sending the message that your feelings aren't okay and your experience is not valid. And so what we're trying to offer right now is another way to help your child feel seen and heard, and so that you can get to solving the problem. But that can't be the first step. The first step is, oh, that is rough. You were really excited to see that camp counselor again. Something about her or him really resonated with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even explore that, take it deeper and say, like, what are you missing about that person? Right?
And really hear them and listen to what they have to say. And they might get to the brighter side to that situation all on their own time. And that's how you can tell, this still feels like a teaching moment.
Yes.
So just slow it down and let them arrive at that place on their own. That's how that skill will stick. Truly.
So if your child is about 6, 7 and up, they have a higher capacity to get there developmentally on their own. Like once you give them the voice and you are there in their emotional states, you will literally see it in their countenance. You will see it in their eyes. Their face will light up and say, you know what, the new counselor's not so bad, or something like that, right? They might get there on their own. Now, if your child is 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, you might need to what we call scaffold that experience for them. So after you spend some time really getting to know, what it is about something that's so hard, or helping them name it, because they're going to need support in naming what it is that's so stressful. Once you're with that long enough, you can then, only when you notice they're calm and you're calm, be able to offer up an additional perspective. And some of those additional perspectives when your children are really young, or when they're lacking the ability to do them themselves, is you step in and provide some extra support. You can say, how about I talk to your new counselor and make them aware of some of the things that are really important for you, right?
Yeah.
So you step in and you further protect them and you further support them in getting those needs met. Now, the reality of the situation is that usually there's 1 or 2 camp counselors to 20, 30 kids.
Absolutely.
And so it's possible that you may feel like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to ask these 4 counselors to do this. Like, I don't want to be that parent.
Yeah. take a deep breath and remind yourself that, at the end of the day, while not all teachers or camp counselors or, whatever the role that they're in will have, 15 minutes to spend with your child individually amongst the 20 or 30 other children that they are paying attention to, that really it's small connection moments that really, really matter. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather be that parent than watch my child come home every day disappointed, sad, struggling, disconnected.
Feeling like I wasn't safe there emotionally. So absolutely.
And the camp counselor might be like, "Oh, thank you." Like,
right.
They might have a much different response than you anticipate. They might say like, "Oh, this is what I was looking for, was something to connect with your child on, and I just, I wasn't sure why we weren't connecting before. Now, I will try this. I will spend 5 minutes during the craft activity talking to them about, whatever it is that they enjoy."
So, that's one of our recommendations for if you're noticing that your child's having a hard time with these transitions is slow down. Before you talk to your child, do some self-reflection and curiosity. What are the potential drivers of this misbehavior that they're having after camp? Is it a thing with the children? Is it a disconnection with the counselors in charge? Is it the structure of the camp? Is it that they're very sensitive to heat and they're like made to be in like the blasting sun for too long, right? Just take whatever it is, even if it feels like silly reasons, be curious and then have that conversation, and don't forget to validate their experience before you go in and try to problem solve anything. And that's our suggestion if this is the case. Now, there's a whole nother part to summertime that I think we don't give enough attention to. And that's usually camps take the place of school for kids, right? Well, the other question is, what's happening outside of camp? How are we filling our children's emotional cup? We all have it. We all have a cup. I use this as a metaphor, right? Like we all have a cup that we need filled. Us adults need it. We need it for ourselves. We need it in the context of our partners or our friendships, our places of work. And then we also need a cup. So our children have the same cup. And because they're a child, that cup is dependent on us, right? So when we're adults, we can take charge of our own emotional cup. We can find ways to fill it. We can ask for our needs to be met. We've got the emotional maturity and the brain complexity to do this. But a child is still building these skills. And so if we can always look at our children from the perspective of, all right, their cup looks empty. Or I have a thing where in my family, we don't use the term cup, we use bucket, our love bucket. And so our love bucket gets filled with a lot of different experiences. And when it's to the tippy top and it's overflowing, you're going to notice that this is when your child feels connected, feels joyful, conversations and communication feels easy. They're able to even actually be more resilient even when there's adversity. And so the other question to be asking ourselves is, our children's emotional cup beyond the camp experiences, in our home environments, on the weekends, is it full?
Mm-hmm. And how can you tell when your child's cup is draining or bone dry?
Mm-hmm.
These are important signals to kind of look out for. And almost, I feel like if you're a parent right now and you're listening, I feel like some of you maybe will even be nodding your heads. This is something I'm intuiting right now, is that those signs and signals of what it looks like when your child their cup starts to look like it's draining or it's empty. Every parent kind of knows that telltale signs, those things that indicate, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Let's name some of those signs.
Yeah. So it can look like irritability. It can look like
whininess,
difficulty with transitions. No, I don't want to come inside yet. I'm still doing blah, 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 whatever it is that they're doing outside.
That obstinance, power struggles,
separation anxiety. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of those things can be bids for connection, bids for you to fill their love cup.
Yeah.
They need that.
And the inverse of that, so a lot of times we look at that as like neediness, right? The other side of that coin is sometimes children get really controlling. They do what we would call controlling based behavior, right? Where they're telling us what to do. They're like taking control of the situation over and over. And that can be scary for caregivers to encounter. So when our kids are giving us these signs, we can now identify it as like, oh, okay, that cup might be on empty, right? It's below halfway. I would say that a good marker when we start to see some of these signs is when that cup becomes literally half empty. Their behavior starts to show as half empty behavior. We know what that's like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those controlling behaviors that you're talking about, they look less like bids for connection, at least on the surface level.
On the surface level.
And more like, I just need things to feel predictable. I need to be able to exercise a little bit of power with my present moment, my situation. Those are often signs that things feel, right, the opposite for them in those moments. Things don't feel like they're in my control. Right. Things are moving too quickly.
Or even the opposite.
Yeah.
That are my parents in control?
Yeah.
Do I have caregivers that are taking charge? I don't think so. So I'm really freaked out right now, and I'm going to go ahead and just tell them what to do because my cues that I'm trying to send are going amiss.
Right. We're speaking as though we're speaking from the perspective of a child, but it's also super duper important to remember that those kiddos, like you said, 7 and under, especially like below the age of 6, none of this is premeditated. No. None of this is conscious thought that their little brains are capable of producing. This is all unconscious behavior that they're trying to sort through as their developing brains are learning, growing, and expanding. So
and being in relationship.
Yes. So that's also important to remember that we not have the expectation that they be able to tell us, something like, I don't feel like you're in control. A kiddo won't be able to let us know that, but they'll show us. They'll show us through their behaviors what that looks like and how that feels for them. So that's important to remember as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that to the light. So what we're really saying here is we're basically normalizing some of the signs that kids give us. Whether they are able to verbalize it or not, we can step forward and notice, right? Okay, all right. There's a lot of whining that's been going on lately. So today after camp, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do something positive together. I'm just putting it on the table. I know that XYZ brings them a lot of joy. I'm going to put this on the agenda and we're going to do that. And then if you go and you fill positive time with your child, what we say is do that intentionally, do that fully present. Because if you do any positive time distracted with your phone around, taking phone calls, or if you do that in a really rigid way and you say, I can only do this for 15 minutes. Right. Your children are going to feel the limitation and it's going to backfire.
Absolutely. So I'll give an example. Something that my child loves to do is play in the mud. He's happiest when he is just with a stick in the mud and a shovel, and is really happy to do that. There are times where he wants to do that alone, and there are times where he really wants people to be a part of that. So that's something that if I'm noticing he's really not whiny, he's having a harder time, that I will, really sit with him, no phones out, just play in the mud. And that's, if that's something, it sounds really simple. I'm only using that because it's a really simple example. But if that's something your child enjoys, go for it. Get messy, get dirty. Don't take out your phone and just enjoy it with them.
Yes. Yeah. So what we can extract from that is make sure that we are able to plan for ample time. Don't set yourself up to not give your child the time that they need. Set yourself up time to really fill it. And then they're going to start to give the signs that their bucket is increasing. And if we are able to do that, then likely they're going to also have more resilience for the hard moments at summer camp or in the family. And the other thing to be careful of is when we go on vacations, us adults tend to idealize vacations, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the break that we all deserve and want and need. And then guess what? All of us humans are still humans and we have our humanness about us and we're going to experience emotions. Some of those emotions may not be the most positive emotions while we're on vacation. And for us parents, that can be really tough. Like, oh, I'm giving you this amazing vacation. Why can't you just behave better? Why are you whining? Is this not good enough for you? And remember, like, our kids don't have that capacity to all of a sudden, like, with the use of their prefrontal cortex that is not fully developed, understand the abstract nature of that.
Absolutely.
And like, oh, I'm supposed to do these things because we're on vacation, right? They're just humans, just like we're humans. And they might have a hard time with the fact that they're getting up earlier or later on vacation, or that they're doing a bunch of touristy things and with unknown people in hot environments. All of those things can be really
without
hard.
their bed and their pillow and their
typical snack times or foods.
Right, typical snack times or foods without the smells and comforts of their homes. That's not to say that kids don't enjoy vacations and they don't enjoy new and fun experiences, but that we want to try to carry that structure with us wherever we're going and whatever the outside experience is, that, elements of structure and familiarity and predictability are there and present.
We want to also offer up this as we close the conversation. If, let's say that actually you haven't signed your kids up for summer camp, right? But maybe you're noticing that everyone's kind of struggling being cooped up at the house all the time and having that slower pace. What could the routine look like that would support all of the needs that we all have independently and together? And so we want to make sure that children get enough in the summertime, but all year long. So even if they're homeschooled kids, we want to make sure that kids get enough indoor and outdoor playtime, right? That it's unstructured and free and joyful, and bonus points if it's social, if it's with another peer, right? So then that part of their cup gets filled, right? Their social connection time.
Yes.
So you want that your days be comprised of indoor, outdoor, free play. You want to make sure that you're also including easeful, joyful connection time one-on-one with your child. This can look like literally 15 minutes increments, or it can look like one 1-hour thing or a 30-minute thing, but that they're getting your undivided attention every day and through easeful, joyful connection. And then you want to also be doing what we call focused time. This can look like quiet time. This can look like, this is when they pull out their schoolwork from the year and practice some of it. This is when they just draw. This is when we read. Some form of quiet time that kind of also fills everybody's need for solitude, because we all have those needs as well, even if you're extroverted. And then being able to also have time where there is activities that are happening, but they're more quiet time activities. And so they're more kind of like less out rough and tumble, but more just this is, again, we're drawing. So the focus time can also be where kids are doing lessons. They're going to a piano lesson for the week or a sports activity for the week. What you don't want is to be having your kid in 3-4 different sports activities in 1 week. Like, think about how hard it's going to be able to get these other elements of a healthy routine in when all of your free time is going activity to activity.
So slowing things down. So taking it from, instead of 3 or 4 lessons a week, take it to 1 or 2, and the time that they would normally be in lessons, open that time up as time that they can do a more focused activity. And if they're much younger, they have a harder time doing things on their own. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do it on their own, completely isolated, right? If they're drawing, draw with them, next to one another, quietly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you have all of these components in a child's day, they're more likely to stay in balance. And usually misbehavior, acting out behavior, rude behavior, what we call disrespectful behavior that comes from kids is always communication. Always remember that. Take a step back and think about what is out of balance here that could be leading my child to struggle in these ways. And we hope that our episode today has been helpful for you, that it's been able to give you some room for pause in the summer season. We're going to be having another episode on being able to live seasonally and really maximize the beautifulness that summer can be for everyone.
Yay.
Thank you all for tuning in today.